Welcome to the 10 Minutes Gold Mine, where every book gives you a treasure of knowledge in just 10 minutes. The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. Introduction. The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank is one of the most poignant and enduring books of the 20th century. Written between 1942 and 1944, Anne Frank's diary offers an intimate and heartbreaking look into the life of a Jewish teenager in hiding during the Nazi occupation of the Netherlands. Through her candid and insightful writing, Anne not only captures the terrifying reality of living under constant threat but also shares her journey of personal growth, her dreams, and her struggles with identity and human relationships. Anne's ability to reflect deeply on herself and the world around her, despite the unimaginable hardships, is what makes her story so powerful and universally relatable. Part 1. The Early Days of Hiding. Anne's story begins when she and her family, the Franks, go into hiding in July 1942. As the Nazis intensify their persecution of Jews, the Franks seek refuge in a secret annex above her father's business in Amsterdam. They are joined by another Jewish family, the Van Pels, and later by a dentist named Fritz Pfeffer. The annex is hidden behind a bookshelf, and the people living there are forced to stay out of sight, avoiding any interaction with the outside world. Anne's diary entries begin shortly after the family's arrival in the annex. In her first entries, she expresses a mix of fear, frustration, and a sense of being trapped. She writes about the limitations of her new life, the lack of freedom, and the discomfort of living so closely with others. Despite the obvious hardships, Anne begins to see her diary as a safe place to express her thoughts and emotions. She writes to her imaginary friend, Kitty, and shares her feelings of loneliness, confusion, and uncertainty about the future. At first, Anne struggles with the dynamics of the people she is living with. She often feels that her family doesn't understand her, especially her mother, whom she describes as distant and unsympathetic. Her relationship with her sister Margot is also complicated, as Anne feels that Margot is the more perfect sister, the one who follows the rules and lives up to expectations. Anne's dissatisfaction with her life in hiding is reflected in her early entries, where she frequently expresses longing for the outside world and dreams of a normal life. Part 2. Growing up in the annex. As time passes, Anne's writing begins to show her growth and maturity. In 1943, she turns 14, and her reflections become more introspective and complex. She starts to grapple with the emotional turmoil of adolescence, dealing with feelings of self-doubt, insecurity, and confusion about her identity. One of the central themes of her diary is Anne's search for a sense of self. She constantly questions who she is, how she fits into the world, and what she wants to achieve with her life. In particular, Anne's relationship with Peter Van Pels, the teenage son of the other family hiding with them, becomes a significant part of her story. Peter and Anne initially do not get along very well, but over time, they develop a deeper bond. Anne begins to confide in Peter about her feelings and struggles, and their relationship grows more complicated as they become closer. At one point, Anne writes about her conflicted emotions, torn between her attachment to Peter and her desire for independence. Her relationship with Peter is one of the few sources of comfort for Anne during her time in hiding, and it gives her a sense of normalcy in an otherwise surreal and dangerous existence. Despite the difficulties of living in isolation, Anne continues to write and reflect on her experiences. Her diary entries become more mature, and she begins to show a greater awareness of the world around her. She writes about the atrocities of the war and the suffering of others, particularly the Jews who are being sent to concentration camps. Anne's empathy for those suffering outside the annex is evident, and she begins to question the nature of humanity, good and evil, and the future of the world after the war. Part 3. The Struggle for Hope. As the war drags on, the situation in the annex becomes more desperate. Food and supplies become scarce, and tensions rise among the people living in hiding. Anne writes about the constant fear of being discovered by the Nazis and the psychological strain that comes with living in secrecy. The pressure of constantly hiding and the strain of living in close quarters with so many people take a toll on everyone in the annex. Anne often writes about her frustrations with the adults around her, feeling that they are either too passive or too controlling. She also struggles with the growing realization that the future is uncertain and that there may be no end to the war in sight. However, Anne never loses hope completely. She continues to dream of a better life, one where she can pursue her passion for writing and make a meaningful contribution to the world. Her diary entries from this period reveal a deep desire to be remembered, to leave behind a legacy that will outlive her. Anne writes about her longing to become a famous writer, and she even begins working on a novel in addition to her diary. This ambition provides her with a sense of purpose and direction, even in the darkest times. Anne also reflects on her relationship with her family. While she still feels alienated from her mother, she expresses deep affection and respect for her father, Otto Frank, who she describes as kind, understanding, and patient. Anne's relationship with her father is one of the few positive aspects of her life in hiding, and she often turns to him for comfort and support. Her love for her father is evident in her writing, and it provides a sense of stability amid the chaos. Part 4. The Final Days and Betrayal. Tragically, Anne's life in hiding comes to an abrupt end in August 1944. After more than 2 years of living in fear, the Franks and the others in the annex are betrayed by an unknown informant. They are arrested by the Gestapo and taken to concentration camps. Anne's diary abruptly stops, leaving readers with an unfinished story and a sense of deep loss. She is eventually transported to the Bergen-Belsen concentration camp, where she dies of typhus in March 1945, just a few weeks before the camp is liberated by Allied forces. Anne's diary was found by Miep Gies, one of the people who helped the Frank family during their time in hiding. After the war, Anne's father, Otto Frank, was the only member of the family to survive, and he worked to get Anne's diary published. The book was first published in 1947 under the title Het Achterhuis, The Secret Annex, and has since been translated into over 70 languages. Anne's words live on, and her diary has become one of the most read and influential books in the world. Conclusion. The Diary of a Young Girl is more than just a historical document. It is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the strength of Anne Frank's voice. Through her writing, Anne captures the universal experiences of love, loss, fear, and hope, making her story both deeply personal and universally relatable. Despite the horrors she faced, Anne's writing demonstrates her determination to live a full and meaningful life, even if that life was cut short. Her diary serves as an important reminder of the atrocities of the Holocaust and the dangers of prejudice, hate, and discrimination. It also highlights the importance of human dignity and the power of words to create change. Anne Frank's legacy continues to inspire generations of readers, reminding us of the need to stand up for justice and equality. What aspects of Anne Frank's story do you find most impactful? How do you think her story continues to influence the world today? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section. That's it for today's 10 Minutes Gold Mine. If you found value in this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep mining for more golden knowledge. See you in the next one.